When you have multiple colors that you're printing, you need to register your screen print. Not all of your images are perfectly aligned on your screen, and they won't be aligned with your paper unless you create a registration sheet. I'm first going to take my taped off screen, and I'm going to use a large paper for my registration. For taping off your screen, you need to tape around all of the edges and then any pinholes that you don't want ink to go through. Then you're going to set your screen in the middle of the paper and trace the outside of it. In order to see where exactly my ink is going to go through the screen, I'm going to print my full image using black ink. This ink is going to be really easy to see on my registration sheet. So I'm going to spread ink all the way along the top as wide as my image. I want to have more than enough ink so that I don't miss any spots. Before I start printing, I need a partner that's going to have clean hands to hold the screen in place, and I also need an apron because screen printing ink is permanent. I have ink along the top of my screen, I have a partner holding it in place, and I also have my screen lined up on my registration sheet. Then I'm going to pull the ink through the screen. I'm putting pressure down and I'm going very quickly so that ink doesn't have time to pool on my paper. Once I'm finished, I'm going to return all of my ink back to the container. So I'm going to collect as much ink on my squeegee as I can and then return it back to the container so that we can reuse the ink later. I'm going to check over my print now and see that, oh yeah, it is a little bit crooked inside my screen, and that's where the next step is going to help me line my paper up. I can also see that there might be some areas that I need to tape again in the next round of printing. For the next step, you're going to wait until your ink is all dry, and you're going to head to the light table with your registration paper and a paper that is the same size as the paper you're going to be printing on. The goal of this part of the registration process is to line up your paper so that it's square on the image. It does not matter its relation to the outside screen measurement, it just needs to be square on the image. For this, I'm going to use a ruler and I'm going to measure all four sides of my print in relation to the paper. I want my top and bottom to be about the same, and I want my left side and my right side to also be about the same. Once they are, after I've adjusted my paper, I'm going to trace my paper and trace some guidelines onto the paper for printing. You can trace the whole paper if you want. You can also just trace the four corners and then put a guideline in between each. This is what your finished product is going to look like. You're going to have the outside of your screen measured and then also where you need to place the paper in the process.